Hello, everybody. This makes me want to, actually, I don't want to do it, but I feel like I want to sing. A bit of a girl band thing going on. I could get the girls up and we can do a bit of a thing for you. Right, okay, so my name's Anita Pace. I'm the Managing Director of Pace, and I want to talk to you about how you can get your true brand voice heard in what is a very noisy media world, and to do that, you need to tell a story. So bear with me while I sort out this clicker malarkey. Can't even see which way. I want to set the scene with a little video. Hopefully this is going to work. Do I need to press it again, do you think? Okay, probably looks familiar. There is no doubt that we're living in an age of information overload. It feels like we're drowning in a stream of constant content. We've never had so much choice or so many channels. Sorry, I'm struggling to see where the button is on the clicker. I haven't got all my glasses on. Whether it's social media, on-demand streaming, digital marketing, print or broadcast, we've never had so much information or so much choice. The way we are consuming media has changed forever. Take social media alone. Nearly 4.5 billion people are active social media users. That's more than double the figure in 2015. Now, this is a global figure. And if you look at how much time everyone spends on social media, that is a day, 2.5 hours, almost 2.5 hours a day on social media globally. So that's social media. What about advertising? Oh, sorry, this is where we're spending our time on social media. So that, again, this is global figures. This is from July this year. Perhaps worryingly, Facebook is still leading the charge. That's Facebook, the platform, not Meta, the corporate entity as it is now. Closely followed by YouTube and WhatsApp. And obviously we can expect more channels to be introduced over the coming years. Just was it last week that Donald Trump confirmed his widely teased own social media platform is going to launch early next year, ironically called Truth. So we'll look forward to that one, not. So that's social media. What about advertising? Back in the 70s, it was estimated that the average person saw between 500 and 1,600 ads per day. Slightly different figure to the one Mike used, so not sure where our sources are. But fast forward to today, and we estimate that people are served between 6,000 and 10,000 ads per day. And how we're seeing those ads has changed considerably. We know that TV is still the most emotionally engaging medium as far as advertising is concerned. But the number of people who are actually watching live TV is in decline. So the number of people seeing TV ads is also on the way down. And we know that because of the explosion of ad-free streaming services, which has accelerated obviously as well through the lockdown. And brands know that this fragmented media landscape means there are fewer moments where they can reach a mass audience and build brand loyalty. They therefore have to work harder and smarter to engage with us. Now, we're all familiar with these things that appear every time we visit a website. However, these pop-ups that are served to us online don't allow for much brand building. In fact, you could argue that they're very irritating. Brand advertising these days seems to be focused on small snapshots rather than the compelling storytelling of days gone by. And it's not just in advertising. There's content available about whatever we want, wherever we want, and whenever we want it. So not surprisingly, our attention spans are much, much shorter than they ever were. And the digital world has also democratized the conversation. The internet and social media are being used to share ideas, draw attention to issues, and mobilise public opinion like never before. Anyone can now be a commentator and broadcast their views instantly and globally. But 90% of consumers are more likely to be influenced by consumer-generated content than by a brand itself, and that's despite the growth of fake news. So trust is much harder to earn, scrutiny is now commonplace, and reputations are more fragile than ever before. So how do you cut through and make sure your brand is heard in this noisy media world? Well, I think you need to be 5 things. You need to be creative, you need to be authentic, and I noticed Craig mentioned that when he was talking about the, what was it, not a rebrand of Hull KR. Yeah, Crest Evolution. You need to be consistent, you always need to be transparent and honest, and you need to be quick. So I want to take each of those in turn and share some examples with you. Creativity. This is a quote from Bjorn Bremer. He's the chief executive of the Berlin office of a global agency I'm sure you're all familiar with, Ogilvy. And he said that just because I see the product at the right time doesn't mean I want it. It's the creativity that makes it convincing. There are ideas, and then there are great ideas. We all have examples of a post or an ad that we remember. It may be something recent, or it may be something from years ago. But why do we remember it? It's not because it had the biggest budget, nor is it because it featured a famous brand or our favourite brand. I vouch that we remember it because it was original, and in some way it will have told us a story. Even better still, if it's emotionally compelling, because an emotive campaign is 50% more effective, and an emotional connection builds trust. I want to share an example with you of a campaign which I think is very, very creative and very emotional. So that's an oldie. It's from a few years ago, but I would argue that it's a goodie. It still gives me goosebumps watching that today. But the power is in the storytelling, and I think for the target audience, it really does have an emotional connection. The second thing I want to talk about is authenticity. Authenticity is a bit of a buzzword at the moment in communications because of all the disinformation there is around on social media. Trust is at an all-time low. So you have to tell stories that people can instinctively believe and relate to. You don't need to be over-ambitious with high production values for original and eye-catching content. You just need to tell real stories and tell them honestly. Every company is unique in some way, so you need to capture that uniqueness and wrap it into your content. I'm going to share another example with you now of a company that I think is always authentic and always remains true to itself.
I'm a forensic artist, work for the San Jose.
So did anybody know that was Dove before the end? If you hadn't seen it before, did you recognise it as a Dove campaign? No? No, I mean obviously it's targeted at women, and I know the room is heavily dominated by men, so sorry about that. But if, as a woman, I find that so powerful as a campaign, and the reason I like Dove is because they always remain true to themselves. They're always celebrating natural beauty, and that runs through everything they do. And at the time, this campaign ran a few years ago, but it was the most popular viral ad campaign that year, with 135 million views at the time that campaign ran, which shows how powerful it was. Next attribute that I think you need to do to cut through is to be consistent. Interestingly, that we've been talking about repetition, because there is a rule of 7 in marketing. And the rule of 7 is that it takes an average of 7 interactions with your brand before anybody will purchase your brand. So it's important that you maintain visibility and remind people that you're there, so that when they are ready to buy, they choose you and not one of your competitors. Which is why, no matter what you're saying or how you're saying it, you're always saying it in the same way. Your communication needs to be immediately identifiable as you. Now I'm going to play you a little bit of music, and I think you'll all immediately recognise the brand behind it. Okay, maybe I'm not. Oh, shit! There's the answer. Well, that was going to be the next slide where I demonstrated their consistency. So that the audio stays the same, but the executions change slightly, but it's very obviously McDonald's. But it's not just in audio that they're consistent. This is a I think Justin Timberlake actually wrote that, didn't he? He actually wrote the song. There's a song behind I'm Loving It, I think. I might have got that wrong now, but yeah, I'm sure of it. Right. This is a campaign they ran earlier this year in February when they were promoting their delivery service. As you can see on the assets, there's no mention of McDonald's at all, but there's no question who it is. The golden arch is immediately recognisable as being McDonald's, and that's a good example of their consistency in all their branding. Okay, the next thing was about transparency and honesty. As we all know, sometimes things don't go to plan. But the worst thing you can do is stay quiet. You need to stand up, take control, and own the situation. You may remember a few years ago when KFC had some major supply issues. Now, this was before Brexit, it was before a tanker got stuck in a canal, it was before any labour shortages and no delivery drivers, and it was before COVID. But at the time, it made major news headlines, and it was all over the internet. However, the company's response was genius. This is an ad they ran. On the left is a very open and frank apology, explaining what's gone wrong and why. And then on the right, as you can see, they've taken their name and rearranged the letters very cleverly. The response was huge. Oh, God. I'll go back. It created over 700 press articles and TV discussions, which combined gave an audience of 797 million around the world, and then a further 219 million social media users were exposed to the branded FCK image. That meant that within 3 months of the campaign running, and this ad only appeared in 2 UK newspapers, so within 3 months, the campaign had generated a total earned reach of more than 1 billion. And all from a single press ad that, as I say, appeared in just 2 newspapers in the UK. And it was simply guided by 3 H's: humility, humour, and very importantly, honesty. And on the subject of earned media, it's worth reminding that typically earned media is worth 4 times more than the cost of an ad the same size. So finally, speed. Keeping your content culturally relevant and responding quickly to real-world events will result in engagement, even if the engagement is short-lived. It won't necessarily result in a sale of your product or service there and then, but what it will do is continue to reinforce your brand. Now, does everybody remember Weetabix and baked beans? There are some nods around, which is good. This was a fun tweet they put on their Twitter account earlier this year, asking the question about whether people would consider baked beans as a topping on their Weetabix. It had a huge response. Organisations and brands globally joined in the conversation about toppings on Weetabix, whether it was a good idea or not, and coming up with alternatives. And it was also picked up as news items, as you can see there on GMTV. It was a very, very successful organic campaign without any paid advertising in sight. And it worked for 3 reasons. It featured a food combination, which is always popular. It was a bit of light relief at a time of when people were feeling a bit down, because it was during the lockdown earlier this year. And very importantly, it was debatable. It asked a question: would you or wouldn't you? So it was provoking conversation and hence driving engagement. So, to summarise, it's a very busy, noisy world of media out there, and technology means that we have everything at our fingertips, quicker than ever before, through constantly innovating channels. But we have to remember that technology is only a tool. These are exciting times to be creative. And companies that want to build their brands for the long term need to focus on great storytelling, whatever the channel is. And to be a great storyteller, you need to be creative, so you need to have those brilliant ideas. You need to be authentic and stay true to yourself. You need to be consistent, not stray at all from your core message. You need to be transparent and honest, and own what you say. And finally, you need to always quickly seize the opportunity when you see one. Thank you.